There is something missing from every self-improvement video you have ever watched. Every single one. And that missing piece is the reason you keep watching them. You keep watching because the videos keep almost working. They make you feel smarter, but they do not make you different. I know what is missing, and when I tell you, it is going to make you angry. My granddaughter sent me a video the other day. She said, "Grandma, you need to watch this. It explains everything." The title said it would explain life in 15 minutes. So I watched it, all 15 minutes. That video is not wrong. Almost none of it is wrong. But it is missing something so enormous that I am not sure the person who made it even knows it is missing. And that missing piece is the thing that will actually save your life if you let it. I know that sounds like a big claim, but I spent 39 years sitting across from teenagers in a small office with a fern on the windowsill. And in that time, I watched roughly 12,000 young people try to figure out the exact same thing you are trying to figure out right now. How to live. How to not waste it. How to stop feeling like you are falling behind or doing it wrong or running out of time. And I am going to tell you something that none of those videos will ever tell you, because it does not fit in a chapter and it does not sound clever in a voiceover. But it is the truth, and you need it more than you need another list of principles. So stay with me. That video talks about how the harder you try, the more you fail. The effort paradox, they call it. And there is truth in that. I watched it happen in my office constantly. The students who were most desperate to be popular were the loneliest. The ones who were most obsessed with getting into the right college were the ones who fell apart when they got there. I had a boy named Marcus Weber in 1983 who was so fixated on getting a wrestling scholarship that he started cutting weight dangerously, stopped sleeping, alienated every friend he had, and by senior year, he was sitting in my office at 7 in the morning, crying because he could not remember why he wanted it in the first place. He got the scholarship. He quit after one semester. That is the effort paradox in a real life, not a theory. But here is what that video does not tell you. Marcus did not fail because he tried too hard. Marcus failed because he was trying to become someone he was not, for people who did not know him, to prove something that did not need proving. The problem was never the effort. The problem was the direction. And that is a distinction that will change everything for you if you understand it. You do not need to try less. You need to try honestly. There is a world of difference between working hard at something that matters to you and grinding yourself into dust for something you think is supposed to matter. One of those will build your life. The other will hollow it out. I saw both versions thousands of times. The students who thrived were not the ones who relaxed their way into success. They were the ones who figured out, sometimes painfully, sometimes with help, what was actually theirs to care about. And then they poured themselves into that. Effort is not the enemy. Misdirected effort is. The video also talks about control, how you cannot control anything except your actions and your reactions. The Stoics figured this out, it says, 2,000 years ago, and that is true. But I want to tell you what that looks like when it is not a philosophy quote on a screen. It looks like Diane Calloway sitting in my office in 1978, telling me her father moved out the night before, and she does not know if he is coming back. She is 15. She cannot control whether her father stays or leaves. She cannot control whether her mother stops drinking. She cannot control the fact that her little brother has started wetting the bed again from the stress. She can control whether she goes to class, whether she studies, whether she shows up the next day and the day after that. And she did. Diane graduated. She became a dental hygienist in Westerville. She is in her 60s now. I still get a Christmas card from her every year. But here is what I want you to understand. When Diane sat in my office that morning, she was not thinking about her circle of influence versus her circle of concern. She was not applying a framework. She was a scared child choosing to keep going. And that choice was not philosophical. It was muscular. It was the hardest thing she had ever done. Theories about control are lovely, and I do not dismiss them. But when your life is falling apart, you do not need a diagram. You need someone to look you in the eye and say, I know this is terrible. I know you cannot fix it, but you can show up tomorrow. Can you do that? Just tomorrow. That is what I said to Diane. That is what I said to hundreds of students. And most of them did it. Not because they understood the Stoics, because someone asked them to try one more day. If you are watching this and your life feels out of control right now, I am not going to give you a framework. I am going to ask you the same thing I asked them. Can you do tomorrow? Just that. We will figure out the rest later. Now that video talks about happiness, how it is a byproduct, not a destination, how chasing it directly makes it run away, the hedonic treadmill they call it. And again, not wrong. But I want to tell you what I actually observed across 12,000 students, and then across the decades after, because some of them came back to visit, and some of them I kept up with, and some of them sent their own kids to me. The people who ended up what I would call content, and I use that word carefully because happy is a slippery word, were not the ones who found meaning or purpose or contribution in some grand way. They were the people who learned to pay attention. That is it. That is the secret that does not sell books. The ones who notice things, who could sit in a room and actually be in the room, who could listen to another person without already composing their response, who could eat a meal and taste it, who could walk through a park and see the park instead of seeing a backdrop for their thoughts. I had a student named Grace Lipinski in 1991. Nothing remarkable about her transcript. Average grades. Did not play sports. Worked at a pet store after school. But Grace had this quality where she was just there, completely present. You could tell because when you talked to her, she looked at you like you were the only person in the building. And I remember thinking, that girl is going to be fine. I did not know what she would do or where she would go, but I knew she would be fine because she knew how to be in her own life. And she is fine. She lives in Granville, raises goats, sells cheese at the farmer's market. She is one of the most peaceful people I have ever known. She did not find purpose. She found attention. And attention is the foundation of everything else. You cannot love someone you are not paying attention to. You cannot enjoy something you are not paying attention to. You cannot improve at something you are not paying attention to. Every piece of wisdom in that 15-minute video requires attention to implement. But nobody tells you that part, because pay attention is 2 words, and it does not fill a chapter. The video talks about your brain lying to you, cognitive biases, confirmation bias, the halo effect, your memories being unreliable. All true, every word. But I want to tell you something about this that is more useful than knowing the names of the biases. In 39 years, I learned that the biggest lie people tell is not to others, it is to themselves. And it is almost always the same lie, wearing different clothes. The lie is, I already know. I already know what I want. I already know what is wrong. I already know who I am. The students who were hardest to help were never the ones who were confused. Confused students were easy. They came in, they said, I do not know what to do, and we could work with that. The hard ones were the students who walked in certain they were not smart enough, certain they had to go to law school because their father went to law school, certain that things would never get better. Certainty is the most dangerous cognitive bias, and it does not even have a name in that video. You are probably carrying certainties right now that are destroying you. And those certainties feel like truth because you have believed them for so long that they have become the floor you stand on. But I have seen enough people pull up those floorboards to know that underneath is almost always something better. If you are sure about something that is making you miserable, question the sureness. That is not a paradox from a video. That is practical advice from a woman who watched it happen over and over and over for 4 decades. Now here is the part that video cannot give you. And this is the part I need you to hear most. That video is 15 minutes long. It has chapters. It has labels. The effort paradox, the control paradox, the happiness trap. And those labels make it feel like life is a set of puzzles to be decoded. Figure out the principles, apply them correctly, and you win. But that is not how it works. That is not how it has ever worked. Life is not a series of principles. Life is a series of Tuesdays, ordinary, unremarkable Tuesdays, where nothing happens except everything. I watched my husband Donald eat the same breakfast for 30 years. 2 eggs over easy, 1 piece of rye toast, black coffee. He read the sports section. He asked me how I slept. He left for the store at 7:45. And I am telling you right now that if I could have one more of those mornings, I would trade every piece of wisdom I have ever accumulated for it. Every paradox, every principle, every framework. Give me one more Tuesday with that man eating his eggs and asking me how I slept. Because that is what life actually is. It is not the lessons. It is the ordinary moments you are in too much of a hurry to notice. You are watching a video right now trying to figure out life. And life is happening around you while you watch. Your coffee is getting cold. Someone in the next room might be waiting for you. The light outside your window is doing something it will never do again in exactly that way. I am not telling you to stop learning. I am telling you to stop thinking that learning is a substitute for living. They are not the same thing. You can understand every principle in that video and still miss your entire life because you were too busy understanding it to actually live it. I want to tell you something about my son Patrick. For most of his 20s and 30s, he was an alcoholic. And I do not say that lightly or easily. It is the great heartbreak of my life. Worse than losing Donald, if I am being honest. Because with Donald, at least I had the peace of knowing he lived well. With Patrick, I had to watch my child disappear inside a version of himself that I did not recognize. And the thing that is relevant here, the thing I want you to hear, is that Patrick knew everything. He could explain every reason he drank. He could identify his triggers. He could tell you about habit loops before that phrase existed. He had read the books. He understood the psychology. He knew it all, and he kept drinking. Because knowing is not doing. Understanding your patterns is not the same as changing them. And all the frameworks in the world cannot substitute for the terrifying moment when you have to actually put down the glass and sit in the discomfort of who you are without it. I watch this with students too, not just Patrick. I had a girl named Teresa Dowling who came to see me every week for 2 years. She knew she was in a bad relationship. She could articulate exactly why it was bad. She could name the cycle. She could predict what would happen next. And every Monday she came back to my office and told me he did exactly what she said he would do. And I would ask her why she was still there, and she would say, I know, Mrs. Trask, I know. She knew. Knowing was not the problem. The problem was that knowing feels productive. It feels like progress. You watch a video, you learn a principle, you feel like you have done something, but you have not done anything. You have just understood something. And understanding without action is the most comfortable form of avoidance I have ever seen. Teresa eventually left that boy, not because she learned anything new, because one day she was tired enough to do what she had known she should do for 2 years. Tired beats smart every time. Patrick got sober at 41, not because he learned a new principle, because one morning he looked at his daughter, my granddaughter Emma, who was 4 years old, and she flinched when he reached for her. She flinched, and something in him broke open that no video and no book and no framework had been able to crack. He has been sober for 12 years. He runs a landscaping company. He coaches Emma's volleyball team. And if you asked him what saved him, he would not say the compound effect or the 80-20 principle. He would say a 4-year-old girl flinching. I am going to tell you my age now, because I think it matters for what I am about to say. I am 90 years old. I was born in 1936 in Youngstown, Ohio. My father worked in a steel mill. My mother altered clothes. I was the first person in my family to go to college. I sat in a small office for 39 years, and I listened. That is mostly what I did. I listened. And after all of that, after 12,000 students and 54 years of marriage and 3 children and 7 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren and a life that has been ordinary in the best possible way, here is what I know. Life cannot be explained in 15 minutes. It cannot be explained in 15 hours. It probably cannot be explained at all. But it can be lived, and the living of it is the explaining of it. You do not figure out life and then go live it. You live it, and the figuring out happens along the way. Usually when you are not trying to figure anything out. Usually on a Tuesday. Usually over eggs. So here is what I want you to do. Not someday. Now. Close this video. Go find someone you love and sit with them. Not to talk about principles or paradoxes. Just to sit. Look at them. Really look. Notice the way they hold their coffee cup, the way they breathe when they do not know you are watching. That is what love is, not the explanation of it, the thing itself. And I think that is what bothers me most about these videos, if I am being honest. Not that they are wrong. They are not wrong. It is that they give young people the impression that life is a problem to be solved. That if you just get the right frameworks and the right mindset, you will crack the code. But life is not a code. It is a Tuesday morning with eggs. It is a 4-year-old flinching. It is a girl named Grace who sells goat cheese and has never once needed to know what the hedonic treadmill is. It is a peppermint in a ceramic bowl that some kid needed more than any principle I could have offered. Life is stubbornly, beautifully resistant to explanation. And the people who live it best are not the ones who understand it most. They are the ones who show up for it most. I kept peppermints in a bowl on my desk for 39 years. Every student who came in took one. Some days, that peppermint was the only sweet thing in their entire day. And I think about that a lot. How sometimes the smallest, most ordinary gesture is the one that keeps someone going. You do not need a 15-minute video. You need a peppermint. You need a Tuesday. You need to pay attention. Now go do that. I will be here if you need me. I have always been here.